first half of the year has been pretty good for stocks, much of that due to the Federal Reserve backing off on raising interest rate, but we've also had a lot of kind of tariff back and forth, especially with China and Mexico as well. So with us, we've got a panel put together to talk a little bit about how we see the economy, Wall Street, stock market, politics, all kinds of stuff. So, of course, Peter, let's start with you because you're in Hong Kong, right?
Yes.
So you're kind of getting a different perspective on the China tariff situation than we here in the U.S. How are things being seen in Asia?
Well, in Asia, I mean, we are seeing all sorts of investment managers, many people, asset managers that are hopefully looking to see if we can actually assist China to get this resolved immediately.
Yeah. I mean, do people think China's in the right and the U.S. is in the wrong? Or, I mean, how is it seen there?
Well, basically, it's not in the best interest of China to have U.S. not working in normal order. Since if you remember in the old days, whereby China has been purchasing a lot of U.S. Treasury bonds.
That's right.
So, you know, it just doesn't make sense for China to want U.S. not being in the right side.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, Alan, it makes sense for there to be some kind of resolution to this because we're both such huge economies. We depend on each other so much. We just got to figure this out, right?
Yeah, no one wins in this kind of trade war. You never do really in trade wars. And I think it'll come to a close fairly soon. I don't see this going past the third quarter for sure.
Kevin, how do you see the market and the economy in general? You're president of Molecular Defense Corporation. I mean, how are you seeing things from a corporate standpoint?
Right now, the economy is fairly strong. We're worried a little bit about this U.S.-China trade war.
Okay.
Nobody seems to win. The last time tariffs were threatened at this level with Smoot-Hawley, it threw the world into a downward spiral. I agree with Alan. I think both countries have an interest in making sure that they come to some type of resolution. So I'm cautiously optimistic that by the end of the year, we'll have some type of trade deal.
Right, and you wonder how much is kind of public positioning and how much is really being talked about, hammered out behind the scenes that they can't let the public see. I mean, do you think that's going on?
I suspect that there's an enormous amount of both inside the park talking and outside. I think a lot of this is positioning for political purposes.
Yeah. So, okay, so the Federal Reserve, that's been another big, and I think really, at least the last few months, has had more of an impact on the stock market than China has even, because Jerome Powell has completely turned around his opinion, now talking about interest rate cuts. Any thoughts on that, Peter?
I mean, interest rate cut obviously is going to push the economy a little bit faster, but I think doing it now or later is the issue.
Yeah.
I think going too early might not be a good job.
Yeah, Alan, what's the talk on the trading floor about interest rate cuts?
Well, you know, last week's job number, 75,000, the old adage, what's good for Wall Street, bad for Main Street, really shines. And you'll see, I think the Fed's definitely lower rates by the end of the year. Maybe not this summer, because we'll probably, it looks like we're going to slow down this summer. But I think by the end of the year, you'll see them cut rates again. Yeah, it's going to obviously spur the economy, the equity market for sure. You'll see what happens to the 10-year yesterday. But yeah, no, it's if you're an equity trader, we love to hear that talk.
Yeah.
But is it right to cut? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do you
think
sense the economy is weak enough to cut interest rates?
I think that that there's going to be a lot of pressure to cut interest rates by the end of the year. The problem is the Fed's going to end up losing the tools it has to control inflation going forward. You know, job numbers are softening. The trade war is having an effect on GDP. We're not having the same sort of results from the tax bill. I suspect that the Fed's going to need to keep some dry powder to fight a potential recession coming down the pike. So, you know, I think we'll see a moderate interest rate cut by the end of the year. However, I'm cautious about going forward. I think we have the potential for a real recession by 2020.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's talk about politics because we're going to be hearing a lot about it over the next year and a half. We never stop talking about this. Peter, do you think China's kind of waiting to see if we have a new president after 2020?
Well, I think China is not waiting the U.S. to have a new president. I think they're concerned about what will happen or during the campaign.
Will this be capitalism versus socialism in 2020? We're seriously talking about socialism in the U.S.
We are, and it's shaping up that way. But you know, 12 years ago, there was this young man, Barack Obama. No one knew, and he took the lead, and obviously we know where he went. So, you know, you look at the front runners, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. Who knows what it's going to be like in 2020?
How do you see the election? I mean, do you think there's this new generation coming up that is like, socialism sounds pretty good?
Well, I think with particularly younger people, there is a recognition that they're no longer afraid of the word democratic socialism. I don't think that the Democratic Party or the electorate in general is ready to go that far.
So, okay, thank you so much, Peter, Kevin, and Alan, for coming and sharing
Thanks,
your
Jane.
thoughts. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you as well for joining us. We'll be right back.